The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our Innovative Approaches to Attracting Talent webinar. We will be getting started shortly, but first I want to take a couple minutes to go over the format of today's webinar. All phones have been muted for this webinar. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the Questions tab in the menu. We will address questions at the end of the webinar as time permits. We will also be recording this session, and the recording will be sent out after the webinar. Again, thank you for joining us. At this point, I would like to introduce our presenter. As a partner with Bloom, Amy Allen leads our human resource consulting practice, where she focuses on working with clients on the people side of their business. Amy has over 25 years of experience in human resources, including holding leadership and executive roles at Suffolk Construction, the Boston Globe, Planned Parenthood, Staples, and other large national organizations before launching her own consulting business. At Amy Allen Human Resource Consulting, Amy provided HR services to her clients both as an outsourced HR department and on a project basis. Amy brings best practices in the areas of people and culture to include talent acquisition and onboarding, performance management, executive coaching, employee relations, compliance, succession planning, organizational design, benefit plan design and administration, employee rewards programs, learning and development training. And now I'd like to pass it on to Amy.
Thanks, Jared. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for carving out 30 minutes of your day. For those of you who are corporate HR professionals or HR professionals, I know how challenging that is to take even 30 minutes. I'm sure that most of you had to put aside some firefighting or problem solving this morning, so thanks for taking the time. As Jared said, I have spent most of my career as an in-house HR professional, so I can relate to the challenges that we face both as consultants and as corporate HR. One of those challenges that has been decades long that we've been facing and fighting is the war for talent. We've been fighting this war both from a talent acquisition perspective as well as a talent retention perspective. And in this session, I hope to talk about approaches to this war for talent, new approaches and old approaches, some that have worked forever and still need to be solid, and some new ideas. As Jared said, please put your questions in as we go along. Enough about me. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about the current culture, the current conditions on this war for talent. We're going to go over some tried and true approaches to how we've been tackling this challenge over the years. But more importantly, the fun stuff is going to be when we get into the innovative approaches, and we'll leave some time at the end for questions. So let's just talk about the current conditions. This war on talent is in the business world the challenge to find the best and the brightest, particularly in the fast-paced world. We're facing very low unemployment today. There's also multiple generations in the workplace, so we have a diverse set of needs, diverse set of things that individuals are looking for in the world of work. We also are dealing with everything being live time, whether it's apps or phones or the internet or chat. Everything is happening live time, so we don't have months to make hiring decisions. Sometimes we don't even have days to make hiring decisions. We don't have hours even to save a disgruntled employee who might be someone that we want to keep. Everything that we need to do needs to happen live time and with quick decision making. So having said all of that, the current conditions are changing. Some of the best practices we've talked about for decades still apply, but I am more fascinated about the cool innovative approaches that some of our clients and other organizations have successfully used to ensure the top candidates accept their offers and that their good people stay. So let's talk about the tried and true. Number one, competitive pay and benefits. It all starts here. I don't mean to suggest that we need to be at the top of the market. We don't need to have the highest paid salaries or the most valuable benefits, but being within market range and being competitive is critical for top candidates. If you know that you're below market, and there's many organizations out there that know that for whatever reasons you are not even at mid-market and your salaries are below market, or your salaries are considered low compared to competitors in the industry, there's ways to supplement with benefits and also perks that are valuable. Things like offering valuable paid time off, or more than usual paid time off. Offering gym memberships are other ways to make sure that you can compensate for maybe low wages. Career growth is also a way to make up for low wages. People are impressed with opportunities to move their career forward. It might take a lower salary if they know that within a shorter period of time, say 2 years versus 5 years, they might be considered for a promotion. There's also new regulations that we have to constantly be looking at comp. So when it comes to pay equity, when it comes to looking at if you're at market, I recommend that as HR professionals, we have a good handle on where we are and where our organization stands, and whether our comp philosophy or our comp status will hurt us or help us when it comes to attracting talent. So I just talked about career development in the last slide. Tried and true number 2 is to create development opportunities. Even if your compensation is competitive and you're at or above market, having opportunities for employees to learn and grow continues to be an advantage in attracting and retaining talent. I wanted to take a minute to talk about the difference between a career path opportunity and development opportunity, because often those two terms get interchanged, and what we think we're talking about, a candidate interprets as something else. I want to make sure that people understand my perspective on career versus development, because I don't believe it's necessary for organizations or managers to be guaranteeing promotions or guaranteeing long careers. I really think that we all are responsible for driving our own destiny, and that we're responsible for our own growth. But as companies and as managers, as leaders, I think we're responsible for providing our employees with the tools to improve their skills and improve their leadership competencies, such that they're great candidates for promotions and that they're constantly improving themselves in their current roles. So providing development opportunities within their own roles so that they can improve their skill sets and improve their leadership competencies is really what employees are looking for in terms of attracting and retaining talent. Creating a culture of learning. Make sure that you have reimbursement policies for people who want to go out and take a course or go to a seminar or conference. Make sure that you have trained managers on how to have development conversations. I also have clients that are really good about having template individual development plans or IDPs, so that employees can actually write down what their development goals are, sit with their managers and have development conversations. Often, if you have it written down, what gets written down gets done, and people like having solid template IDPs or individual development plans. And if anybody's interested or looking for a template IDP, please reach out and we can provide you with one that we use with our clients. We actually have a client who measures their leadership and manager performance based on how well and how often they're having development conversations with their employees. They do a really good job at training managers on how to have conversations that are encouraging and caring without guaranteeing promotion. So the critical piece is the experience that employees are having and believing that their organizations care about their future, care about their development, and try to give them tools and opportunities to learn and grow. Good corporate citizens. We all like to feel like we matter, and we all like to feel like we're contributing to a greater good. And this applies in the workplace as well. Top candidates want to work for organizations that make a difference. And that doesn't matter whether you're a for-profit or a nonprofit. We all like to feel like we're giving back in some way. Doesn't have to cost money. We actually have a client that gives time. They actually give an additional 8 hours a month to their employees to give back to their community in some way. We have a lot of clients who fold giving back into team building activities. They can put by department or by company as a whole, depending on the size, go and have volunteer opportunities and wrap in team building. When I was at the Boston Globe, we had a finance team that served dinner at Rosie's Place after work once a quarter Anybody on the team could sign up to go, and they really loved and had to be a consistent part of their who they were and their core values. We also have a client that twice a year takes their staff of 10 to clean up a beach or volunteer at an animal shelter or work at a food bank. And when I was talking with one of the employees just last week, they said that this is one of the biggest retention components to them staying with this company, because they just love, even though it's after work or outside of work, they really love going with their coworkers and doing something that is meaningful and gives back. Of course, if you have matching donations or if you have opportunities for employees to have their own causes to get a company match, that's an even better way to have employees feel supported by the organization for their own individual causes. But as I said, it doesn't have to be money. There's a lot of great opportunities out there. One story that I love is a client down the street. They're located, their offices are actually right next to a underserved Boston elementary school. Every September, they buy backpacks and fill them with school supplies, and on the first day of school, the whole company goes and delivers the backpacks. And it just makes them feel like they're not only giving back in general, but they're actually making a difference in their own community. And it makes for good neighbors, and employees just love it. So there are lots of great ideas out there. If you need more, I encourage you to go to Boston Cares. It's actually bostoncares.org. They're a local organization that helps companies find community opportunities where they can give back, either on a team building effort or either on an individual effort. The other thing that I would ask is that if any of your companies are doing something really cool around corporate citizenship and giving back, I'd love to have you share that with me so I can share it with those on this webinar. We're stronger together with better ideas, so please send along any good ideas that you're currently using with your own organizations. Okay, so talked a lot about the tried and true. I really just reviewed 3 of them. There are many others. Having strong managers. We know that the data and statistics show that people leave companies or come to companies because of the relationship with their managers. So having strong managers is critical to attracting and retaining talent. Giving people the right tools to do their jobs, making sure that they have the right apps, that they have the right computers, that they have the right phones, that they have the right systems is another critical piece to attracting and retaining talent. I have a client, in fact, that still asks people to send resumes to email addresses when they're applying, and they found that they've seen a huge drop in applications. And once they signed up with a technology applicant tracking system, their applications went through the roof. Just not having the right tools, people don't want to take the time to cut and paste, or is indicative of a company that was behind in the times. So just make sure that you have the right tools and systems to do your job well, and that your employees also have the right tools. But the cool stuff is the innovative approaches. We want to make sure that we're no longer thinking about interviews and about the employee experience as being all our decision. It's not about making candidates squirm in an interview to see how well they deal with pressure. Really, it's about the candidate experience. And hiring managers and HR need to be thinking about creative strategies so that they stand out to potential employees. We need to be constantly considering new approaches to attracting talent. So let's talk about the first one, the interview. This is the best branding opportunity that employers have that I think is often missed. We get to interact and sell ourselves to candidates on a daily basis, and sometimes it's better than social media or any kind of advertising, because it's your opportunity to sell your company and explain firsthand what sets you apart. Again, it's all about the experience. Employees are making a decision about you as much as you're making a decision about them. I encourage you to be prepared for interviews. If anybody's ever had the experience of walking into an interview and having the interviewer be scrounging around their desk for your resume and starts off by telling me something about yourself, and you just don't feel like they're prepared or really interested in having you there. All of those kinds of not being prepared components impact how an employee is going to walk away from the interview. You got to sell. It's hyper competitive. Why would someone want to work there? Be prepared to talk about what makes your organization special. and be prepared to ask employee questions about all the different components of what makes you unique. At the same time, we know in HR that we don't want everyone. So we're out there selling to everyone, but let's be honest, we need to also give a realistic job preview. It's important for employees to know exactly what they're getting into, and I think it's important to do this at the interview stage. I have a client who was consistently losing call center reps, and they were departing within the first 3 months. We did all kinds of data statistical research and analysis and couldn't figure out what was causing the people to leave. Until finally, during a departure meeting, I asked a more forthcoming and direct employee who was leaving what was the reason for their leaving. And she said to me, you know, the fact that the call center is in a space that has no windows makes me feel really claustrophobic. And if I had seen the space before, I would never have accepted the job. So changing the interview process such that it included a tour of the space, all of a sudden we saw a huge drop in that turnover in the first 3 months. So make sure you give a realistic job preview. Give candidates the opportunity to self-select. Show them the potential position, introduce them to current employees, show them the space so that you're making the most out of attracting and retaining the right talent. So we also know, all of us who have been in HR for a while, about this whole behavioral interview question trend. Gone are the days of asking yes or no questions, and we all know how to use behavioral interview questions to get to the skills and experience that somebody would have. What's been interesting lately is I've started using more of a conversational approach to behavioral interview questions by asking candidates to tell me a story. Tell me a story about a time that you faced a challenge, or tell me about a time you handled a certain situation that you came across. This is an important part of the experience. You want to make sure that you seem engaging and caring, and you want to make that candidate feel like they had a real conversation and not just spitting out their statistics and their data. Really get them to show you how their personality is and how they are going to engage with you as an employee. Another thing that's new that I want to throw out there, ask candidates questions like, what do you stand for? Asking a candidate what they stand for will give you an idea of what their core values are. And actually, I've had a couple candidates say that's the first time I've ever been asked that, and it's really cool question. It sort of indicates to me that you care about that and not just what the experience is that I bring to the table. So asking the right questions is critical. Just remember, when it comes to the interview, it's all about the experience. You want the candidates to walk away, whether you hire them or not, feeling like they had a really great time and that this is a great place to work. I tell the story all the time. When I was with Staples, and I was with Staples for a long time, I actually interviewed 6 times for 6 different positions before I was finally hired. And the reason I kept coming back was because I just loved the people that I met every time that I went, and I loved what the company stood for and the direction that they were going in. But really, it was the experience that I had when I was there that kept bringing me back. So remember that even if they're not the right candidate, you want to make sure that they're having the best experience. Innovative approach number 2. This is all about the decision. I know that as an HR professional, one of my most frustrating challenges when I would have hiring managers who were shoppers. They were commitment phobic and were always worried that there was a better candidate out there. And I wanted to take this time to encourage all of us who are either in the hiring manager positions or who are in HR, please try to counsel hiring managers away from being shoppers. If you find the right candidate in today's climate, do not keep looking, jump on it. It's really important to remember that there's no such thing as the perfect candidate. There are actually many people who can do any one given job successfully, but they can be successful for different reasons. And the most important thing is the risk. If you're a shopper, you're creating a lot of risk for the organization because you lose so much time and you lose good candidates with this comparison shopping. So make sure that if you recognize a good candidate and they are sort of meeting all of your criteria, don't be a shopper, because it will really hurt you in this war for talent. Internal referrals. This has been one of the biggest aha moments I've had as an HR professional in the past 3 years. There are many schools of thought on the value of internal referrals, especially when considering the difficulty of administering them. Those of you in HR are probably wincing, as you know, how hard it is to figure out how do we pay out, and is this truly a referral, and what if there are two people who referred the same person. The challenge of administering internal referrals are sometimes analyzed against the value of the candidates that you get. There's also companies that believe that this should just be a natural part of what employees do, and they don't need to be recognized or paid for doing the right thing. But no matter how we're looking at how we've looked at internal referrals in the past, what I want to talk about today is a new way of looking at internal referrals. I was at a conference 3 years ago, and there was a CEO of this Fortune 500 company speaking, and he said when he first started, he had his intro meeting with his CHRO, and one of the things that came up was internal referrals, and she was explaining to him that they really had average success and that the administration was difficult. And he said, well, why are they having average success? And she said, I'm not really sure. I just don't think people are comfortable referring people. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a company that had a 90-day waiting period. So you refer somebody, they'd start 90 days after they were in the job, you got your referral bonus. And he turned to us in the audience and he said, what the heck is that? Isn't this a referral bonus? Shouldn't we be paying people out for the referral? And he said, I said to my CHRO, whose job is it to make sure that they're qualified through the interview process? Is it ours, or is it the employees who are referring them? And whose job is it to make sure that they stay for 90 days? Is it our job, or is it the employee referring them? He said the minute we changed that referral bonus waiting period so you get paid out the minute they're hired, we started getting double the amount of internal referrals. So I just throw that out there because it was a huge moment for me that I thought, gosh, why am I doing that? That doesn't make any sense. And I fell into that's just the way we've always done it. We've always had a 90-day waiting period and never really thought about it. But really, when it comes down to it, it's not the employee's job to ensure quality or ensure retention. So consider paying out the referral bonus as soon as the new hire starts. And I'll be curious to see if any of you see an increase in those referrals. The other change or thing that has made a difference in my world is using referral bonuses only for specific hard-to-fill positions. So instead of having a blanket internal referral bonus where anybody who refers somebody gets the $250 or the $500, what we did at Suffolk is, at Suffolk Construction, we had in most construction companies, we had a really hard time finding estimators. I think there's only 5 estimators in the world, and we're all fighting for them because that's how challenging it was. We spent lots of money on agencies and retained fees to try to find estimators. And ultimately, what we ended up doing is putting a strategic internal referral just for estimators that was really substantial. I think it was 10 grand, something, really, really substantial. And lo and behold, we got some great referrals. So I'm not suggesting 10 grand, but, if you have a position that is traditionally hard to fill, you might consider doing away with your blanket internal referral bonus and just use them on a discretionary basis and strategically and make them valuable so that you might see a turn in how they're and how people are looking at referring internal people or referring people internally. Swag. We all love swag. Don't need to spend much time on this one because we all know that this is what we grab for at the conferences and what we look for at the booths, that we all love swag. But what I want to throw out there is that, we're spending so much time as organizations on doing extra things and making investments for our customers, and we should think about making those kinds of investments in the hiring process. Giving candidates swag when they come in for an interview instantly makes them feel like they're a part of the team. Even if it's something as silly as a pen or, a pad of paper with the brand on it, it really will help people be like, wow, this is cool that I'm walking away with a parting gift even if I'm not hired. I also throw out there, because this has been something that's been really, really successful for me over the past 2 years with our clients. Consider when a job offer is extended to be creative and send swag to the person's home. We actually have a car dealer client on the South Shore was having a really hard time closing mechanics. They'd make the offer, the mechanics seemed really excited, and then all of a sudden they'd go to their current employer and they'd make a counter offer, and they wouldn't, then they'd come back and say, I can't accept it. And it was a real challenge because they spent a lot of time interviewing and trying to make the offers to the mechanics. We came up with this creative idea of once we made the job offer, we actually sent swag to that person's home. In fact, we sent flowers and I think, water bottles to the person's home. And the next week after we did this the first time, that individual said, I tried to tell my wife that I wasn't going to accept the job, and she said, no way, they sent me flowers and swag, and your current company's never done anything like that, and this is the company you want to work for. And it truly it made a huge difference. So think about using swag in a creative way. Again, this costs very little dollars. It can make a big difference in attracting and retaining talent. So those are the old and the new, the tried and the true, and the innovative. I think we have a few minutes. I don't even know what time it is.
Yep, we have a few minutes.
5 minutes.
A couple attendees sent in some questions. We'll see if we get some answers for you guys. So, Amy, you talked about finding the right candidate, and if you find that person, to stop looking. What if I were to say, I have a very solid candidate, but for the next 2 weeks I have interviews scheduled? How would you go about that?
Yeah, I wish I could say, and hopefully my HR colleagues online will agree, we wish we could say cancel them because we have no time. But ultimately, again, it's about the experience. If you have interviews on the calendar, you don't cancel them. And the other thing is, you might find a candidate in those future interviews that are good for another position or will be good for positions down the road. So even if you found the person, the right candidate, make the offer, but keep the interviews, because it's always good to create pools of candidates, and you don't want to have that negative experience of canceling.
Okay. On to our second question. You mentioned to use referral bonuses only for specific hard-to-fill jobs in a way. Currently, my organization offers referral bonuses for every position. Is it a good idea to stray away from that?
My advice on this one would be look at the data. See how many internal referrals and quality internal referrals you're getting. If you're not getting many, you might do a survey or ask employees why they're not taking advantage of that benefit. And if it's very low, then I would suggest, hey, try it. Say, we're not going to be having the blanket internal referral bonus policy anymore, but we are going to, on occasion, for specific positions, throw out the opportunity to earn a bonus. So the bottom line is, it would depend on if it's going well or not going well in your current culture. If you have a blanket policy that nobody's taking advantage of, then I would consider doing something different.
And for our last one, as you stated, when a job offer is extended, send swag to the person's home. Would it be appropriate to send swag to their home post-interview, pre-job offer, if he or she is a strong candidate?
You can never go wrong with swag. It's always good. It always helps. So if whatever you can afford, it's just going to make that experience for the candidate stronger.
All right, thank you. I want to say thank you to everyone who took the time out of their day today to tune in. I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.